Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Michael Fortin. I am the Director of Promotion for the Maine Tax Portal here at Maine Revenue Services. I am joined by our panelist, Lori Brand, Deputy Director of the Sales, Fuel, and Special Tax Division. And it's my pleasure to be your MC for our webinar on hospital tax for the new Maine Tax Portal that became available on October 10th, 2023, which marked our third rollout of the Maine Tax Portal. The portal is now open for individuals and most Maine businesses to file and pay taxes, view notices, and much more. You can visit the MTP information page at maine.gov/revenue/portal to learn when you can get started for your specific tax type. I'll give you that address again. It's maine.gov/revenue/portal. Before Lori gets started with her presentation, I have a few housekeeping items to review with everybody. First, the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen will not be used for today's presentation, although you'll have many opportunities to ask questions. Today's webinar is designed to be interactive, so therefore, once Lori begins her presentation, I will be enabling all of the attendees to unmute your microphones and talk with Lori should you have any questions. Attendees who don't have a mic or just simply more comfortable typing in your questions, you may use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Lori will answer as many questions as possible, and if we're unable to address your questions live, then we will follow up via email following the webinar. There may be times when you'd like Lori to repeat a step that you've missed, or perhaps you're simply unable to watch the entire session. Therefore, it'll be helpful to know that today's webinar has been recorded, can be viewed by anyone who's registered. There are no documents or presentation materials that you'll need for today's webinar. Feel free to take notes, but know you can always rewatch the recorded material anytime you'd like to review it. And finally, we should be reminded there could be unexpected technical challenges. We need to remember that Lori is speaking to you live, so therefore we appreciate your understanding and ask for your patience if we should experience any technical difficulties. That concludes all of our housekeeping items. One last point is that along with Lori today, behind the scenes, we have Tabitha and Tyler helping us with the demonstration of the Maine Tax Portal, so we would like to thank them for their assistance. Lori, let's get started.
All right, thank you, Mike. Welcome everyone to the Maine Revenue Services Maine Tax Portal webinar. Today, Tabitha and I will be demonstrating Maine Tax Portal functionality, including how to create a username and password for Maine Tax Portal access, and how to file and pay a hospital tax return. None of the data that we're using for this demonstration is taxpayer data. It is all created in our test or development environment. And since we're using a development environment, you will see from time to time blue populate links besides some fields such as banking information, and those will not be available to you in the production environment. The preferred browsers for the Maine Tax Portal are Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. Internet Explorer is not recommended or supported. We are now entering Rollout 3 of the Maine Tax Portal, and anyone with a tax type from the previous rollouts can use this system. Those tax types, just to name a few, include corporate, sales, use, withholding, and healthcare provider. This rollout included hospital, individual income tax, cigarette, tobacco products, milk handling, and initiator of deposit taxes. Taxpayers with hospital tax accounts will receive an invitation letter containing their new 8-digit account number. Yes, you all have account numbers now. This will also contain detailed information on how to utilize the portal and how to create a username and password, but we'll show you that in this demonstration. You can begin creating your profile now. You don't need to wait for the letter. If you have questions, please be sure to ask them during the presentation. So we're now going to show you how to create a user ID and password using a letter ID and a tax amount. There are two different ways. So let's go to the Maine Tax Portal. Showing on the screen right now is the Maine Revenue Services homepage, which is www.maine.gov/revenue. To get to the Maine Tax Portal, you can select either the red File and Pay button, or you can navigate to the top of the screen where it says Electronic Services, and select the top link for the Maine Tax Portal. So we'll click on that, and here we are at the Maine Tax Portal homepage. So there are two ways that you can create a username. You can select Create a Username at the top right of the home screen under Login, or you can go to the Quick Links panel, select Register and Apply, and select Create a Username. Both links take you through the exact same process. So here you'll see 4 options, and you must select one. The first is that I represent a business or organization, which means that your tax accounts are registered under an EIN. The next is I am a sole proprietor or individual, which means that your accounts are registered under a Social Security number or ITIN. I represent a municipality or county, which means you're a branch of government. And finally, I am an independent third party or licensed payroll processor. And this category generally covers bookkeepers or accounting firms as an example. For today's demonstration, we're going to select option 1, that we represent a business or organization, and select Next. Here you're shown the information that is required for you to proceed with creating your username and password. Make sure that you have everything that you need, and then you can select Next. On the Validate Tax Information page, you'll see red asterisks. Those indicate required fields, and you'll see those frequently throughout the portal. The first field that you want to look at is the ID type. So you'll need to select an ID type, such as a federal ID, individual taxpayer identification number, or social security number. But because we represent a business or organization, the only option available is a federal ID. This federal ID should match the account types that you are registered under. So next we're going to enter that ID. And here we're going to enter an account type that is associated with that EIN that we just entered. If your account type is not available in this dropdown, you cannot proceed and you'll be unable to create a username or password for the Maine Tax Portal. The tax type is part of the verification process. So today we're going to select Hospital Tax and then select Next. The verification type asks for an amount due from one of your last 3 filed returns. 0 returns cannot be used for verification. If you only have filed 0 returns, you can use the letter ID from any letter that you have received from Maine Revenue Services. So right now we're going to select option 1 for an amount due, and then we'll select Next. And here we will select the tax amount due and enter that amount due. And again, this is from any 3 past filed returns. So then we'll select Next. And now we are at the Create a Username page. Okay, at this time, we're going to select the previous button at the bottom of the screen, go back a couple of pages, and we'll show you how to create a username using the letter ID. So let's select that option and then select Next. And let's pop up an example of the letter that they might receive. Okay, this is an invitation letter to the Maine Tax Portal. This is specific for hospital tax, so this is what you should get based on the account level. The 2 pieces of information that are required are the letter ID and the letter date, which is being highlighted right now, the top right corner of the screen. So those 2 pieces of information must match, meaning the letter ID has to match that letter date. Can't use 2 separate letters. Okay, let's go back and enter the letter ID and that corresponding letter date. And then we'll select Next. And here we are back at the Create a Username page. Here you will enter a username that is created by you, and you'll enter your first and last name, email address, and again for confirmation, you'll be asked if you would like to go paperless for mail delivery. We're going to say no, but if you say yes, just keep in mind that some pieces of mail are required to be sent via U.S. Postal Service. The next panel is the security panel, and this requires you to enter the password that you would like to use. Password requirements are at least 12 characters containing a mix of upper and lowercase letters, 1 number, and 1 special character. You can view the password requirements by clicking the blue circled eye icon beside the word password, and that's showing on the screen right now. To make sure that your passwords are entered correctly, you can select the blue eye at the end of the password field to view. Passwords are only visible until they match, at which time both fields turn to all asterisks and can no longer be viewed. You'll next be required to select and answer a secret question. And finally, you're at the phone number panel. This defaults to a cell phone, but you can select whatever type of phone number that you'd like to use. And then we can select Next. Here we have a registration summary of everything that we've entered so far. Take a look, make sure everything looks accurate, and then you can select Submit. You will be required to enter your email address twice for verification. And once you've finished, you can select OK. All right, in here, you'll get your confirmation code, and you will have the option to print the confirmation page by selecting the printable view. So let's take a second to talk about user roles for the Maine Tax Portal. You've just created your username and password, but there are several types of accesses allowed within the Maine Tax Portal. You get what is called master account access, which means you have access to everything. You have an administrative role, and you also have a general user role. So typically, it's the first person that creates their profile within the Maine Tax Portal that is known as the master account holder. Anybody after that is generally known as an administrator, which means you can still see all of the account types that are registered under the EIN in the Maine Tax Portal. The only limitation is that as a general user, what that normally means is that either an administrator or your master account holder has created your profile for you and has assigned you permissions, meaning they only want you to see the hospital tax account. They don't want you to see any other tax accounts that they have. Before we proceed, does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, so let's file that hospital tax return. This activity does require that you be logged in, so let's do that now with the username and password that we just created. From here, you will need to set up a two-step verification. The setup that you do is only a one-time setup, but you will need to authenticate each time that you log into the portal. So here you see three options. You should select the one that you will have with you at all times that you will need to log into the portal. We're going to select to add an email, and then we'll enter that email address that we want to receive the code at, and then we can select Save. Here is where you will enter the security code that is sent to you through your selected authentication method. We're going to select the blue populate link that we discussed previously, but that won't be available to you. So here we can select Confirm. And we are now inside the Maine Tax Portal. This is where you can see all of the accounts that are registered under that EIN that you created your username and password under. So this panel that we're on, or this tab, I should say, is called the Summary tab. And this is, again, a list of where all of your accounts are listed. The next tab that you'll see is called the Action Center, and this shows all of the actions that you may need to take. The Summary of the Settings tab is where you can set a default payment method, change your mail notification method, and mail delivery. And the next tab is titled More. The More tab has probably the most functionality, and this is where you will find submissions such as your filed returns and payments, messages and letters from Maine Revenue Services. You can update names and addresses in addition to account management requests. As an example of what you can see, we're going to navigate to the Letters panel and select the View Letters link. Here we can view and reprint any letters that are sent to us from Maine Revenue Services. To print a copy, you click on the letter type link, which brings up your letter. You'll use your browser's print functionality to print the letter. Once we get going in the Maine Tax Portal, you will receive various notifications that get published here. So when you get so that you have a lot of letters, you can filter them as being demonstrated right now. Type in a keyword, and it will bring up the letters that have that word in there. So on the topic of letters, Maine Revenue Services will no longer be sending a reminder email or letter that your hospital tax return or payment is due. By creating a profile in the Maine Tax Portal, a notification will be sent to your email address. You can log into the portal under the Actions panel, and you will see what notification has been sent to you. You know that you have a return due or that you have a payment due. Does anybody have any questions about anything so far? All right, let's file the hospital tax return. So from here, we're going to navigate to the hospital tax panel, and we're going to go to the hospital tax section where we will select the View and File Returns link. You'll see multiple periods. The periods are shown on the left-hand side, and File Now is shown on the right. Please make sure that you are filing or selecting File Now for the period you really want to file. You get the current period, and typically you get a future period. So we're going to select the period that ends June 30, 2023 by selecting File Now. And we are now at the demographic information page. You only have one required field. Select whichever are applicable to your business. So we haven't gone out of business, so we'll say no, and then we'll select next. This return is really easy. You only have one line that you need to fill out, and that is your total revenue. So the tax is automatically calculated and divided into two installments. One is due with the return on November 15th. The other payment is a payment only, and that is due on May 15th, as noted right there. The amount that you enter for gross revenue should be the same as it was last year, unless you had any adjustments made by the Department of Health and Human Services. So, and just a side note, for the period begin July 1, 2024, which would be next year's return, due in November, you will use 2020 revenue. Okay, back to the return. Everything looks good. We're going to select next. And now we are being shown what our balance due is. So you're given, this was automatically calculated based on what you entered on the previous screen. So take note of the remittance amounts that are due and the dates, and you'll be asked if you'd like to make a payment right now. So for this purpose, the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to say yes, and we'll select next. On the payment screen, you will enter your routing number. We're going to select the populate link. By entering your routing number, it populates your bank name. And from here, you'll enter your bank account number twice, and then select the associated bank account type. And then you'll be asked if you would like to save this payment channel for future use. So we're going to say no. The payment date defaults to the current date, but you can choose a future date so long as it is not past the return due date. The payment amount defaults to the full tax amount due, but the first remittance amount is the only one that must be scheduled. And you can do that by selecting Other Amount and entering the remittance amount from the previous stage. We'll enter that amount again and then select Next. Here we are shown all of the entries that we have made so far on the return. You may have noticed at each stage of the return, your progress has been highlighted by the blue bar at the top of the screen, and this is common throughout the portal, whether it's an application or a tax return. You'll see this. If needed, you can navigate to previous stages of the return or application by clicking the stage name in the blue bar. There are options to save draft, which can be used at any time to save your progress. You can come back to it later. Using the cancel button will halt the activity and not save your progress. You can also navigate backwards by selecting the previous button, which we did when we were creating a username. So all of our entries look correct. We're going to select Next. And this is a required declaration. just means that your return is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and ability, and you'll enter the name of the individual filing the return twice, and then select Submit. Here's your confirmation number for your return and/or payment if you made one with it. You can also select the printable view, which will allow you to use your browser's print functionality to print off a copy of the return. If you had not made an ACH payment, you could still select the print voucher / pay by check button, which would bring up a copy, not bring up a copy, but bring up a payment voucher that you can send in with your check payment. So we only ask that if you choose this option, only send the check and the remittance voucher. Do not send a copy of your tax return that you filed through the portal. We don't need that. So from here, we are going to talk about some debit block numbers. If you're making larger payments, or sometimes just as a policy for your company, you use debit block numbers, and that is not going to change for you. The number is going to remain the same if you're using one. But the Easy Pay system, which is Maine Revenue Services payment only portal, is going to go away after December 31st of 2023. You won't be able to schedule any payments on it after that date because you should be scheduling those payments through the Maine tax portal. Before we go into our next activity, which is to demonstrate some additional payment functionality, does anybody have any questions? Okay, hearing none, we are going to talk about some additional payments. So paying the tax due in full at the time of filing is a statutory requirement for most tax types, not hospital, but we do realize that other factors may come into play that prevent you from making a payment in full, such as additional accrued interest or penalties for filing or paying late, or maybe an adjustment to the tax due after the return was filed. We're going to continue with the hospital account that we used earlier, but take a note that on each tax type panel, there is a make a payment link. And selecting that link will allow you to make a payment for the tax type that you click. So we're going to go back to the hospital tax account, and we're going to select make a payment. And this takes us back to the payment screen that we saw earlier. So here we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to enter the routing number and our bank account number, and then select our associated checking or banking or savings type. We'll be asked if we want to save the payment channel again. We're going to say no, but if you do say yes, it will be there available for you each time that you want to make a payment. So the payment type has a drop-down menu, and choices of payment types are available depending on the tax type that you're going to pay. To pay a liability, you would use account payment or return payment. The account payment allows you to make a general payment towards the account, while the return payment applies it directly to a filed return. Today, we're going to select the return payment, and this is where you select the specific period that you want to apply your payment towards. You can only select one period per return payment, and there does need to be a balance due. For this demonstration, we'll select the period ending June 30, 2021. If you are selecting a period and the due date has already passed, the payment due date is today's date because the debt is past due. If the return that you select is not yet due, you can choose a future date if you want to. We're going to go ahead and select today's date as our debt is already past due, and then we'll enter our payment amount. On returns that are past due, you will have the choice of paying a current balance or other amount. Keep in mind that paying a lesser amount may cause interest and penalties to continue to accrue, but for returns that are not yet due, the entry is freeform. Today we will select other amount, and then we're going to enter $3,000. We'll need to re-enter that amount, and then select Submit. Here, when you're making a payment like this, you'll be required to enter your Maine tax portal password, and then click OK. and this confirms your submission. Your confirmation is there. Again, you can use the printable view to print off a copy, but make a note of it for your records. So now we're going to click OK, which will bring us back to the summary page. And if needed, you will have the option to make a change or to delete a payment while it is still pending. That means that it's in a submitted status. Once it's been processed, you can't make a change to it. So we're going to go to the More tab, and we're going to go to the upper left-hand box and click on Search Submissions. We'll click on the submission that we want to change, which in this case is payment. And here you're brought back to that payment screen. From here, in the upper right-hand corner, there are options to withdraw and to delete. We're going to select Withdraw, and we're going to say yes, that we are sure we want to withdraw this submission, and then click OK. This is confirmation that this has happened. So if you change your mind, then you want to continue editing this payment, don't want to withdraw it, you can click Continue Editing. And this makes the payment screen interactive, and you can change whatever information you like. So we're going to change the amount, and then we'll select Submit. Password entry again, and then say OK. And here's our second confirmation number for that change that we made. So we're going to say OK again, and say that we decide we don't want to make a payment at all right now. We can select the delete link. Are you sure you want to delete this submission? We're going to say yes, we want to withdraw it. And the submission has been deleted at this time. So from here, we're going to navigate back to the front page. We're going to click on Submissions up in the top, and then the business name, and we'll be brought back to the summary page. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, hearing none, that concludes our demonstration. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Lori. We would like to invite our audience to consider any questions you might have. Please type them in to the Q&A area, the bottom of your screen. We'll give you a few moments to do that. And while we're waiting, we'd like to take a look at the Maine Tax Portal information page, which contains a lot of helpful information. And right now we're at the Maine Revenue Services website. This is maine.gov/revenue. I'm going to scroll down under important updates. You'll see the heading there, important updates. And the second link from the top says important information about the Maine Tax Portal. We're going to click that link. And that will bring us right to the Maine Tax Portal information page. If you would like to navigate directly here, you can type into your address bar maine.gov/revenue/portal. By doing that, that would bypass the Maine Revenue Services homepage and enable you to come directly here. So we'll scroll down and just take a look at the page. You'll see three columns of different taxes that have been introduced into the Maine Tax Portal. Those are all live and active. And the most recent list is the column on the right there that includes hospital tax. And again, those are all active and ready to go on the Maine Tax Portal. And underneath the list of taxes, you'll see a group of blue buttons. We'll take a look at a few of those. The first one is the Maine Tax Portal login button. So that will enable a quick way of jumping from this page over to the portal itself to log in or perform any non-logged in activities. And then the next button is FAQs. We'll click that and take a look. The FAQs are made up of questions and the answers to those questions from prior webinar attendees. So individuals like yourselves who have attended our training webinars have sent in questions, and we have summarized them for you and organized them into various categories so they're easy to find. If you have a question, there's a good chance it's probably on this list. So we would encourage you to take a look at them, and it's a great way of learning about the Maine Tax Portal. We'll click back now. And next, we'll click the Instructional Videos button. So instructional videos are short, narrated video segments that demonstrate different functions and features of the Maine Tax Portal. And these are organized into categories as well. And another great way to learn about the portal. I would like to call your attention to one video in particular. If we look under the Getting Started section at the top, the second video from the top, setting up a third-party account. That video would be of use and of interest to anybody in the audience who is a practitioner or anyone who works with a practitioner who would like to allow a third party to access your Maine Tax Portal information. It's a very simple procedure in which the practitioner goes into their respective portal account and requests access from the client. And then the client goes in on their side, logs in, and grants that access. And that video explains that process is very, very easy. And it's a great way to introduce you to it if it's the first time you're doing it. So please check that out. And then we'll click back now. And we'll look at the 4 blue boxes on your screen. These will describe each of the phases or rollouts of the Maine Tax Portal. There are 4 in total, and we've just completed rollout 3. October of 2023 has introduced the latest group of taxes to be brought into the portal, which of course includes hospital tax. And if you're interested in looking ahead to October of next year, and October 2024, that'll be our final rollout, and you can look at that list and consider if that may be impacting you. And then at the bottom of the page, we have the olive green colored section. So that is all about webinars. You today have signed up, probably clicking that button yourself to come in and register for a free training webinar. There are some additional sessions left, although we've been running these since September, so we're winding down for the fall. But there are additional sessions up and coming, in particular for individual income tax, which starts in January. So you'll see that list there with the schedule. So feel free to take advantage of those and sign up as many times as you'd like to learn all about the portal. If you've missed a training webinar for some reason, you'll see that the webinar recordings, there's a button there, so you can go back and watch any of the prior sessions. Once we conclude a particular topic, then the video is posted up on the web. So for those of you attending today, we will be sending out a link through email to be able to watch a recording of today's webinar. And soon afterwards, we'll be posting that video on the website for everyone to see. And then lastly, we want to point out our contact information. So if you have a question, if something comes up after today and you'd like to reach out, we would love to hear from you and be happy to help. Our telephone number and email address are listed there. The email address is taxpayerassist@maine.gov. We'll give that to you again, taxpayerassist@maine.gov. The telephone number is 207-624-9784. One more time, 207-624-9784. Thank you very much. We appreciate your attention on that. I do see there is a question in the Q&A. Lori, do you want to take that one?
I would. So if you are already signed up for the Maine Tax Portal, the hospital tax should automatically appear to you, assuming that you have registered for your username and password using the EIN that the hospital tax account was created under. So if you didn't, meaning if you're not sure what EIN number you used or what your account number is registered under, you can contact us, contact Maine Revenue Services, and we can help you out with that. But usually if someone hasn't created your account for you and only assigned you access to a specific account type, if you created that username and password yourself using the correct EIN, you should just be able to see the hospital tax account or any accounts that are associated with that EIN. Did that answer the question?
Great. I don't see anything else in the Q&A area. Oh,
okay. Yes. Okay. Great.
fantastic.
Okay.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. Send in your questions. I'll give you a second to type in if you need to. All right, well, what we'll do is we'll kind of recap the important points that we discussed today. And if there is a question that comes in, and then the next few seconds, we'll address that before we end today. But of course, I'll give you the contact information again, so you can reach out at any time. Before we close out, we would like to thank you all for coming. We hope you've thoroughly enjoyed our webinar today. I'd like to thank Lori and Tyler and Tabitha for a great job and appreciate you demonstrating the Maine Tax Portal. And to thank each of you, our attendees, who took time out of your afternoon to join us and learn all about the portal. As a reminder, we've recorded today's session, so all of our attendees will get a link in your email tomorrow, so you can view the recording if you'd like to do that. And we do want to recap some important points, that the Maine Tax Portal is open now for individuals and for Maine businesses to file, pay taxes, view notices, and much more. And the hospital tax did become live on October 10th, 2023, so it is live and active and ready to go. So you can visit the Maine Tax Portal information page to learn when you can get started for your specific tax type, or to check out the resources that we looked at, the FAQs, the instructional videos, the webinar recordings, and all of that material. So that web address again is maine.gov/revenue/portal. And if anyone has a question, our email address, one more time, is taxpayerassist@maine.gov, and that telephone number is 207-624-9784. All right, it looks like we're ready to conclude our webinar for today. So we thank you all for attending and wish you a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.